This is After Ian.
Resiliency measures are essential, especially when we look at some of the historical equivalents of Hurricane Ian in Southwest Florida and what storms with massive surge can mean for our future. Gulf Coast Life host Mike Kiniry talks with author Tom Hall about research he's done for a timely new book.
Hey there, Tom. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
So you're an author, you're a historian, you do a lot of research. You've got a book coming out around the anniversary of Ian called Fort Myers Historic Hurricanes that I had the pleasure of reading the advance copy of already. I grew up here thinking that we weren't very susceptible to storm surge. I've been here since 1980, so that's just sort of what history showed me, I think. But we are very susceptible to storm surge, as your research showed. Can you break down why?
Sure. In fact, I was surprised when I did the research for the book to find out of all the towns and cities from the Rio Grande to the northern tip of Maine, Fort Myers is number 6 most at risk for surge. The reason is that tropical cyclones drive wind down. In the Atlantic, that's no problem because the depth of the ocean absorbs the downward pressure. The Gulf of Mexico, by contrast, is very shallow. Go 100 miles out, and the West Florida shelf is only 300 feet deep. 15 miles in, it's only 40 to 50 feet deep. So there's just not enough water to absorb that downward pressure from the cyclone. So when a storm comes from either the west, like Wilma did in 2005, or from the southwest, like Ian did in last year, that downward pressure on top of that West Florida shelf, there's nowhere for the water to go, so it just drives it up in piles higher and higher and higher in front of and to the right of the eye till it reaches the shore, and then it just drives it over the shore and inland.
I read your book, the advance copy of it, shortly after Ian, and it was eerie for me because it starts off with and you wrote it before Ian, it starts off with a storm in 1841 that hit Punta Rassa that is very similar. Can you just give us the basics of that storm way back then?
Yeah, the two storms actually followed roughly the same path. Now, the 1841 storm covered Punta Rassa with 14 feet of inundation. Fortunately, at the time, the only thing on Punta Rassa was a fort by the name of Delaney, and so the loss of life was fairly minimal. But the Army learned its lesson, and when it rebuilt that fort in 1864, it built its barracks on 14-foot cross-braced pilings. And that prevented the inhabitants of the barracks in 1873 from drowning when another storm covered Punta Rassa with another 14 feet of inundation.
It may seem obvious that sea levels increasing would enhance how storm surge affects us. Sea levels are rising, the historic record shows that. Explain a little bit more in detail why that makes storm surge even more problematic.
Storm surge is measured on top of whatever the sea level is. So if sea levels rise, that means storm surge is going to penetrate farther inland. And that's going to disrupt the ability of rivers and tributaries to properly drain their associated basins and floodplains.
You've written other historic books, one about the fires that have impacted Fort Myers. You did a lot of research for this. Is this a new body of data for you to have dug into, this, all this sea level rise and things like that?
It was, and it was completely unintentional. I was actually looking to chronicle our early history. But in order to properly explain what was happening, I had to learn all about the impacts of tropical storms. So I've read more scientific treatises and civil engineering reports than I ever thought that I would.
So your research has shown that there are 4 ways that warmer temperatures impact tropical systems. Storms intensify more quickly, they slow down or they stall in some cases. There are a greater frequency of stronger storms, and storms are wetter or produce more rainfall. Let's just break down those kind of quickly. Sure. Rapid intensification, it's a term that I'm hearing more and more of lately. What does it mean scientifically?
Scientifically, it refers to a storm whose sustained winds increased by 35 miles per hour in a 24-hour period. And according to a number of scientific studies, rapid intensification events have increased just in the last 30 years from 17% of all storms to 35%. So that means 1 in 3 storms now we can expect is going to go through a rapid intensification cycle.
And it seems sort of counterintuitive to me, but explain why warmer temperatures would lead to slower storms or even stalling storms.
Warmer temperatures change the gradient or the difference between winds, and winds are what drive these storms. So as these gradients lessen, what's going to happen is storms are going to slow more frequently. Not all storms. For example, Idalia tracked at 18 to 20 miles per hour, which is about average. But more and more storms are going to slow, and when they slow, they're more prone to stalling, which means that they linger for 48 hours or more in a 125-mile-an-hour area. The problem that portends is the longer a storm remains in a given area, the more rainfall that it dumps. Take, for example, Harvey set the record with 60.68 inches of rain during the course of that storm. But even Ian, moving at 8 to 9 miles an hour, Ian still dropped 25 inches of rain in Titusville and 21 plus inches in Daytona Beach.
And we should be expecting to see more Category 4 and 5 storms. Is that a fair way to put it?
That is a fair way to put it. The body of research right now is predicting that for every 1 degree Celsius of temperature rise, we're going to see 25 to 30% more Category 4 and Category 5 storms.
And explain what the wetter storms mean. This is a term that I have only recently started hearing. It basically just means storms have more water in them. Is that a good way to put it?
It is. Think of it this way. Nature loves equilibrium. So as temperatures rise, the way that it offsets that is by putting more water vapor into the air. So all you have to do is walk outside. It feels wetter. It feels more humid. And that's because we're getting more water vapor in the air. Tropical storms convert that water vapor along with sea surface temperatures. They convert that into rainfall. And so in a wetter environment, you're going to see wetter storms that are going to produce more rainfall. The average storm will produce an additional 10% of rainfall. But storms that slow and stall could produce anywhere from 20 to 60 inches of rain.
And all that adds up to us needing to take storms extremely seriously here in Southwest Florida, as Ian showed.
Correct. The slower a storm moves, the more surge it generates, and the longer that surge lingers. But the other problem is the more rainfall that the storms generate, the more inland flooding you have. And if you combine the two and have surge and flooding, there's nowhere for the water to go.
Well, thank you, Tom, for all the research that you've done, and I'm sure we'll continue to do, and for your book, Fort Myers Historic Hurricanes.
It's my pleasure, Mike. Thanks for having me.
There are many more stories and more of holding our community leaders accountable as we rebuild after Hurricane Ian.
Please stay with WGCU as we continue to gather the news and present it at WGCU.org, on WGCU FM, and right here on WGCU PBS.
We want to say thank you to all for helping us tell the stories of Hurricane Ian.